Today, we're sitting down with the incredible Amanda Nolan. You don't want to miss this one. From raw, vulnerable lyrics to the hope that's carried her through. Stay tuned to hear more because Kingdom Builder starts right now.
Hi, my name's Lachlan.
Hi, my name's Brooklyn, and we're from Southland.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is John Wesley.
Hey, Josh Bissell here.
Hey, this is Jamie McDonald.
What's up? I'm Laverdier.
Hey, it's Leah.
And Brandon with Presence Music Band.
What's up, y'all? This is Seth Schleter.
This is Anya Lee.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Bodie, and you're tuned in to Kingdom Builder.
Life never stopped to let me take a breath, so I put on the mask I'm wearing.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Laxton with Kingdom Builder, and I'm excited to introduce you to an artist whose heart, honesty, and soulful voice are making waves, Amanda Nolan. Today we'll be talking about her journey, her powerful new single 17, and the importance of mental health and faith in her story. But before we dive in, please note today's conversation may involve some sensitive discussion around mental health in light of May being Mental Health Awareness Month. And we definitely, of course, want to thank Amanda for being so open and sharing her story. Amanda, welcome to Kingdom Builder. It's great to have you today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, so, I've been listening to music for a little while now, but of course, there might be a lot of those who are listening and watching who might not have. Can you just to kind of start off, let us know a little bit about who Amanda Nolan is and where your musical journey first began?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I'm Amanda. I am originally from Philadelphia, just south of Philadelphia, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee now. I started my music journey probably around 10, 11 years old. I've been at this for a pretty long time. I was doing pop music for many years until I was 17. That's when I first started struggling with my mental health. And it was something that totally rocked my world, just changed everything. And I knew in that moment that I needed a savior. So I started going to church. I gave my life to the Lord. And a couple years later, he called me into Christian music, which I didn't know anything about. Didn't grow up listening to it, didn't really know anything. So it was something that felt confusing for me, but I just gave God my yes. And that was about 5-ish years ago now. So now I make music that is honoring to the Lord, but also opens up really honest conversation about mental health and struggles and, really just this walk in this world and this walk with Christ that can be really difficult sometimes.
So, let's kind of get right into it because you mentioned, you're 17 when you kind of, you start walking with the Lord. Of course, you just released a little while ago, the new single, your latest single, 17. Very powerful song. Can you kind of walk us through the heart behind it and that personal experience that's inspired it? Just share as much as you feel comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was 17, like I said, that was the first time I'd really experienced a true struggle with my mental health. What I didn't know at the time was that I was struggling with OCD because I was later diagnosed with that. I was having just constant intrusive thoughts, things that were out of my character, things that made no sense. But the OCD would make me believe that these things were true. And so I would spend hours ruminating and trying to convince myself they weren't true and finding evidence that they weren't true. And it was just a very vicious cycle in my brain. I truly felt like I was losing my mind. I thought that I was crazy. And I was really, really afraid for my future and what that was going to look like for me because I was struggling so bad. And then from there, I started to develop derealization, which is when you detach from the world around you because your brain is perceiving, something traumatic, something dangerous, and it's trying to protect you. It's really something beautiful that God has actually designed in our brains to protect us, but it's, perceiving things, there's no danger actually around, but it's perceiving it as danger. And so I started to feel just very detached, which led to some depression and anxiety. Thankfully, today I stand here and I do feel a lot better. I'm in therapy and things have been, really good, but it's been a journey that's many years ago now. And when I decided to write 17, I wanted to get really, really candid about exactly what I was walking through. And so that whole song is just a bunch of thoughts that I had at the time and exactly how I felt. And I thought, in Christian music, a lot of times there's a resolution to the end of the song. This song did not have that because at the time I did not see a way out, even though I was trusting in the Lord. So the song is really just my cry at the time to the Lord of, God, like, I need you. Where are you? And not necessarily hearing his voice just yet. But it's, you know, a song that's very important to me and I hope really ministers to other people.
And I think that's important. Even though it doesn't have that, happy-go-lucky resolution that a lot of Christian music has, is that because it reaches to those again who might be struggling, and they're going to listen to it and they'll be like, "Wow, this is she's really went through a lot," and then it'll open up to the rest of your catalog. It's like, wait a minute, this is, you know, as we talked a little off, it's like there's a lot of great music in your catalog you have so far that you've released. It's like, okay, well, this is wait, she's a Christian. Wait, what's going on? So I think it'll really open up that those doors to really invite people in who are really struggling. So of course, you mentioned briefly that you at 17, you just when you started your relationship with Jesus or around that time. Can you kind of explain how was influential in that healing process during those years?
It was really actually kind of crazy how the Lord was really after my heart for a long time, and I just didn't notice it. My producer at the time, who I was working with, started working at a church, and he invited me, and so I started going, and I really found a great community there. And I think at the end of the day, like I realized no matter what was going on in my life and whatever I was walking through, what was going on in my mind, I always had hope. And that I learned that with Jesus, like joy is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not promised to have a life full of happiness, but we do have this deep rooted joy knowing that this is not our home. And that even if we don't experience healing on this earth, we will when we get to heaven. So it was that true hope that he really instilled in me that changed everything. And just knowing that I had a God who knew everything, who knew every thought, he knows me down to the number of hairs on my head, that there's nothing like that. Knowing that he's the one on your side and he has all the strength and all the power. And I know that all I have to do is just let him fight for me and just continue to seek his heart.
That's definitely a big difference from, you think of those people who are not walking with the Lord and they have these struggles. It's like, I can't imagine how it'd be without having the comfort and the peace and knowing that God's with you, that he's by your side every step of the way. So I think it's important that faith is a big part of that. And we're so, lucky is not the good word, not a good word for it. But we're so, just the fact that we have that joy that we can rely on, I think is hugely important. So for those who are, hearing 17 for the first time, what do you hope that they walk away with? What's that main message you hope that's going to resonate in their hearts?
I hope they walk away feeling seen and heard and understood. Because I know for me, when I was going through that at 17, it would have meant everything to me to see a Christian artist talking about things that I was walking through. So I think from that moment on, God has called me to be that for other people, and to just be, extremely vulnerable, even when it's very it can be very uncomfortable. But it's something that I really feel like the Lord has called me to do. And I hope that people just know that they're not the only ones and that it's okay to struggle. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. And it's okay to ask for help too. You don't have to suffer in silence. I did for so many years, and there's so much healing in being honest and being open. So I hope that I can encourage other people to be open as well.
And then with, May being Mental Health Awareness Month, I think it's great that, songs like this open up that door for the real conversation. And as you said, as an artist, you're opening yourself up to be vulnerable with these topics. And that's hugely important because again, there's, a lot of people are just, hiding and they don't really know, but the music, music changes people's lives. Even though they might go one ear and out the other, they might not realize it. I like the beat. They like, but when you start getting into, subconsciously, even the lyrics and starting to realize that, there's more to it than just the beat and the music and whatever the production is on that. I think it'll hugely resonate with the audience and, it'll get them to listen to it over and over again and really hear that. So as far as your particular sound, I know you've been compared to artists such as Lauren Daigle and Tori Kelly. How would you kind of describe yourself as far as your sound and any influences you have in that regard?
Yeah, I actually have been on quite a journey to figure out what that sound is for me. I having such a long background in pop music, I really struggled to, really find my place in Christian music. And I think, um, just the songs I've been writing recently have just really felt like me. And, it's kind of hard to find a way to describe it, but I guess it's just a very honest sound, kind of like singer
Hmm.
songwriter sort of sound, just storytelling. I think that's my favorite thing to do is just to really tell a story. So yeah, I that's the best way I can describe it. A lot of days I'm like, I have no idea what this song is, but it's just me. So yeah, that's what
So,
it is.
so when it comes to that songwriting process, then what does that process look like? Is it like lyrics first and then a melody, or is it a journal entry? Can you kind of describe how that might work for a typical song? If there is a way for a typical song, it might not happen that way. So who knows?
Yeah, I feel like for me, I can find inspiration anywhere. And it's usually from a conversation I have with someone or something I saw on a TV show or another song that inspired me. And all of a sudden I'll just start writing these lyrics and I'm like, I don't even know where this is really coming from, but it's just kind of like just coming out of me. And a lot of times I feel like God will almost like download lyrics into
Mm,
my brain and then I just kind of write them out and it feels like I was just like a vessel for a
mm,
song. Yeah, so when it comes to an actual writing process, I know a lot of writers have their own, but for me, it's just whatever I'm feeling that day. If it's a melody I hear in my head or a lyric that I hear that is sparked from somewhere, I just kind of write it down and then go from there. And I don't usually sit down and finish a whole song unless I'm actually in like a co-write.
mm,
If I'm writing on my own, it'll be like a little verse or maybe part of a chorus. Yeah, it really changes all the
mm.
time.
Well, I guess that just shows the I like the Holy Spirit download part of that you
Yeah.
mentioned because that's um I think that when you really get that, when you feel that, hey, this is God talking to me to put this on paper, then you feel like that this is going to be the way you need to go. And you've been collaborating with some really respected names in Nashville, and you mentioned some co-writes you've done as well. How has that experience stretched or grown you creatively over the past say year or so?
Oh, it's been crazy how much it has grown me as an artist. I, went from writing completely by myself until I started coming to Nashville when I was like around 19, 20. So it was a huge shift for me to go from being able to have all the time in the world, just try everything, all these lyrics, and even if it sounds bad, not care because it's just you, to going and co writing with amazing writers and trying to keep up and trying to, come up with ideas on the spot. And it can be really uncomfortable at first, but I think just over time, you find out who you really enjoy writing with and who gives you the space to just be you. And everyone here is amazing. Like there's not a single person that I haven't enjoyed writing with, and
Mhm,
everyone just really is. They allow you the space to grow.
mhm,
And I feel like I'm finally now, after a couple of years, like getting the hang of it. And it's like anything else. It's a muscle you have to continue to work out to exercise, and
mhm.
the more you do it, the better you get at it.
No, it definitely makes sense. I mean, it'll it's any writing process, whether it's music. I mean, I wouldn't know the songwriting process because I'm not a songwriter, but just I like to write on the side and on just like reviews and other things like that. And I can, yeah, definitely the more you do it, the better you get. See, I'm not a good speaker, but that's okay. We'll go through it. So you just recently got off a tour with the Newest Boys, and had some other great accomplishments here recently. When you look at the season that you're currently in, what's been that one God moment that's just blown you away?
That's a great question. I think I have two. I think well, actually three, but I'll tone it down or narrow it down to one. I think it's really just been trust in the Lord, and He has really been calling me out of fear and just calling me into this new place of completely trusting Him and completely leaning on Him because I the touring with the Newsboys was like one of the most incredible things I've done so far. And actually 2 years ago, before I even lived here in Nashville, I had a friend invite me to a Newsboys concert, and they were the first Christian band I've ever seen live. And I remember going there and having a little business card and being like, I'm going to try to give this to someone, and, try to get my name out there. And then just 2 years later, I got to open for them. So that was like truly the most incredible God moment I think I've experienced thus far. Yeah, so God just really, he blew me away with that one.
That's awesome. That's going to be a good show though too. If that was your first concert, your first exposure to them, I think I could see that easily being now you're opening for them. That's pretty cool. So if you could go back to and encourage the 17-year-old Amanda who is still wrestling with those questions and fear, what would you want to tell her today?
That's a really, really good question. There's a lot of things I would tell her. But I think it would, number one, be to don't be afraid to be open and to be honest, and you don't have to hide what you're going through because that doesn't make you stronger. Vulnerability is not weakness and struggle is not weakness. It's something that we all will experience at one point or another in our lives, and it's okay to ask for help, and you don't have to suffer in silence, because I did for so many years, and that just makes the problems deeper and deeper and harder to untangle. So I would just say open up to the people around you.
And to hang on, because there's hope at the end of the tunnel for sure.
Absolutely. There's so much ahead of her that she didn't even know was possible. She never thought she could live on her own in a state 12 hours from her family. But it's stuff like that where I really truly didn't believe I could ever do it. And with God's grace, I was able to.
And to think we don't, the future is still undetermined, and God has, I'm sure God's got some great plans. So kind of looking at the future a little bit, is there anything that you can tell us, any projects, singles, or moments that you can kind of give us a sneak peek about for the rest of 2025?
Actually, yes. I haven't really said this anywhere yet, but I have an EP coming out this fall, which is my first project that I've ever put out in Christian music. So I'm really excited about it. It's funny because I kind of just been writing all these songs, and I really just decided today the exact songs that are going on the EP. And as I was sitting down and looking at them, I realized that they completely told my story in order from where I started at 17 to where it will end up in the last song of the EP. And I feel like God really put that together without even me really knowing it at first. So it's really just going to tell my story from where I started at 17 to where I am now. And not saying that there aren't days where I don't struggle, because absolutely I do. But I just have a new perspective on life. So I'm so excited to share that with, people who listen to my music this fall. I don't have a date yet, but when I do, I'll be excited to announce it.
Well, hopefully we'll get to have you on again to kind of do a deep dive in the EP later on down there. That'd be kind of fun to kind of take a look at that and really explore the musicality of that all. But I think having the almost like a chronological timeline of your life, just that story you'll get that resolution at the very end that we're getting. We really want for sure. Yes. So it'll be good. So for anyone listening today who may be stuck in that hard mental health battle, whether it's, they feel unseen or unheard, what would you say to them to remind them that they're not alone?
Oh, yeah. I think it all really, again, goes back to opening up, not only to the people around you, but opening up to God too. Because I think sometimes we're like, oh, my problems are just too much. Like, it's too much, either too much for God, or he's doing so much. How could he care about my problems? But he does, and he's there to listen. And I think also what is huge is community. That was like number one thing for me, is like, get yourself in a good church, get rooted in a good Bible study, get people around you who are going to pray for you, and also just be there for you, and you can be there for them. And it's such a beautiful thing when you really have these godly friendships that really, really, you care for each other. That's huge. And then, opening up to family and just really breaking the stigma on mental health. I mean, that's what this month is all about, right? To raise awareness for these things that we feel we've had to be silent about. So that would be my main advice, just that there is a God who cares for you and loves you, and Jesus is there. Like it doesn't. It's hard to feel it sometimes when you're walking through that. But he truly is there, and he does, change all things for good. Everything always comes together.
Mhm.
If it's not good, it's not the end. That's like one of my favorite things. You know, that I really hold on to, and that gives me hope. So just that
Ab-
you're not alone.
yeah, absolutely. And God wants you when you're at your lowest, because he wants you to look at him and be like, hey, this is why you need a savior, because I'm going to help you walk through this. So I think it's a good time for those who are again, who want answers. Well,
Yeah.
definitely open up that Bible, turn. There's plenty of resources out there that you can find, and we'll have some here linked in the description as well, to really just to find a place where you can get some peace and solace and realize that you're not alone in this journey, because it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of people who are ready to listen and to take care of you, and to help you along the way. But again, Amanda, thank you so much for your honesty today, and just sharing your story, because I believe that your bravery and voice that you've shared with us today, as well as continue to throughout this month, and even just with your music, I think it's going to change many lives. But before we go today, how can someone find you and keep connected with you and your music?
Yeah, absolutely. All my social media is just Amanda Nolan Music. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, everything's just Amanda Nolan Music.
So it's easy to find you. That's good. But
Yeah.
again, thank you so much for taking the time to take time to spend with us today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you so much for sharing your heart and your music with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you so much.
A huge thank you to Amanda Nolan for sharing her heart with us today. Such an inspiring conversation. Be sure to check out her latest single, 17, and if you haven't already, hit that like button and share this interview with your friends. And until next time, this is Mike Laxton reminding you to keep Christ first in your lives, and everything else will fall into place.
Can you still hear the words that